With the stress levels on max and the uncertainty on fleek, I thought, hey, fuck it, let's do something cathartic and continue with my fucking work. Text 29. Translation. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him as being amazing, cannot understand him at all. Purport. Since Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of the Upanishads, it is not surprising to also find this passage in the Katha Upanishads. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful, either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matter for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, I just lost my spot. All activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Without self-understanding. Yeah, that's because you don't have a proper foundation. You eventually just fall over. Perhaps one has no idea that one must think of the soul and also make a solution of the material miseries. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the supersoul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the soul, the supersoul, the atomic soul, their respective functions, relationships, and all other major and minor details. And, let's start a sentence with and it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if, somehow or another, one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. Heard of right way and a wrong way? Apparently there's right way and any other way. Text 30. Excuse me. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore you need not grieve for any creature. Purport. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul in describing the immortal soul in various ways. Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher, Bhisma and Drona, will die in the battle, on the authority of Shri Krishna. Excuse me. One has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting from the interaction of chemicals. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at the time of war, it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of the sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. Text 31. Excuse me. Translation. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Purport. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order, for the matter of good administration, is called kshatriya. Ksat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called kshatriya. Triyati, to give protection. The kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. The kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face, Evola over here, and fight with the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, because it's gonna happen, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. Okay, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system is being followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur state. The Kshatriyas are specially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyasa or renunciation. Non-violence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle. In the religious law books, it is stated. Yawn. In the battlefield, a king or kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving heavenly planes after What, really? Planets? You get to have a planet? Heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the battle, on the religious principle, and the killing of animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrifice gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another, and the kshatriyas killed in the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the brahmanas who attain them by offering sacrifice. Damn. So if you really love your cat, make sure you sacrifice it and kill it, and don't let it just die of fucking cancer or some thyroid infection bullshit. There are 2 kinds of svadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of that particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's svadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual, and is and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the brahmanas and kshatriyas respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Svadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, Svadharma is called Varnasramadharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnasramadharma, or specific duties, in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one's specific duty in any field of action in accordance with Varnasramadharma serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. Text 32. I swear I don't yawn this much in real life. O Partha, happy are the kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Yeah, don't go looking for blood, because you will find it. Purport. As supreme teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna who said, "I did not find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell." Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become non-violent in the discharge of his specific duty. For a Kshatriya to be in the battlefield and to become non-violent is the philosophy of fools. In the Parasara Shrimi, or Shruti, or religious codes made by Parasara, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, the Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus with religious principles he should rule over the world. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom, and if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets whose doors were wide open to him. Yet Valhalla, motherfucker, fighting would be for his benefit in either case. Text 33. Yawn. If, however, you do not fight this religious war, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Don't lose that rep, bruv. Purport. Arjuna was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pasupata Astra. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronakarya gave him benediction and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adopted father Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, he would not only neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name, and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. Yes, live by the sword, die by the sword. Finish what you start. Text 34. No, I don't know what 30 is in Spanish. Translation. People will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Yeah, that's true. Fuck. Purport. Both as friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield, people will call you a coward even before your actual fight. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you do better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death, so you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship. Misusing my friendship. That's an interesting choice of words. And from losing your prestige in society. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjuna to die in the battle and not withdraw. In other words, you won't do it. You won't do it, motherfucker. I bet you will die. Go prove me wrong. Text 35. 35. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you a coward. Yeah, I've thrown that word around a little too willy-nilly once or twice before, and I felt bad about it. I was like, damn, them's fighting words I come from. Purport. Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Kara, and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. Oh Lord, this implies that, like, we're a social species or something. Imagine that. Text 36. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? Yeah, that is a tough question. Purport. Lord Krishna was astonished in the beginning at Arjuna's uncalled for plea for compassion. And he described his compassion as befitting the non-Aryans. Now, in so many words, he has proved his statements against Arjuna's so-called compassion. Yeah, non-Aryan is a severe insult, apparently. Translation. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planes, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up and fight with determination. Purport. Even though there was no certainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight, for even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planes. Compassion's been able to blind an Aryan for thousands of years, it seems. Text 38. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and, by so doing, you shall never incur sin. I read that like a question. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting? I would have translated that ought thou, but I don't speak Sanskrit. Purport. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or gain, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad, but he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obligated to anyone, nor is he the debtor to anyone, the master debater, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. As one is in the ordinary course of activities. Excuse me. It is said in 11.5.41, anyone who has completely surrendered unto Krishna Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obligated to anyone. Not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. That is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses. Shaisa. Text 39. Thus far I have declared to you the analytical knowledge of Sankhya. Shankya. The knowledge of Shankya. He's gonna shank you. Of Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya. Tell me how to pronounce that in the comments. I have no fucking idea. Now listen to the knowledge of yoga, whereby one works without fruitive result. Fruitive. It's not a fucking word, man. O son of Pertha, when you act by such intelligence, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Ooh, someone tell that to the NSDAP. Albrecht macht frei. Purport. According to the Nirukti, the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes phenomenon in detail, and Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul, and yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom by conquering his cousins and brothers. Excuse me. The sons of Dharashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, for there is a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper, and he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individual souls eternally, and we simply change our bodily dress in different manners. But actually we keep our individuality, even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna, and this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya. In terms of the Nirukti dictionary, this Sankhya has nothing to do with the Sankhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila's Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother, Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha, or the Supreme Lord, is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. Prakriti, P-R-K-R, the dot under it, T-I. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glances over the Prakriti. It's easier to pronounce if it's T-R-I. God damn it. Prakriti. Oh my god. Prakriti, or nature, and impregnated it with atomic individuals' souls. There's no punctuation. Individual souls? All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya, or sense gratificatory illusion. Gratificatory. And it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. So fascist. Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master